Sanji and Garp are two of the more complex characters introduced in One Piece, with both possessing a vast amount of both fans and haters. Their actions in the story are often misrepresented by those in the community due to the fact that they may not seem as straightforward and easy to understand, with most taking their ideals and codes as a weakness. In this video, I want to go over the strength of an unbreakable code in One Piece, analyzing both Sanji and Garp's codes, why they shape their character, how it relates to the strength of their Haki, and why their actions in the series do not display weakness but dominance. This is my compromise for the practically 50-50 split for each character in my 500 sub special polls, as it's very clear that both characters are heavily requested. I know if I make an analysis video on just one, I may not get around to the other for a while, so I wanted to give you guys this so I can talk about both sides for both parties. Codes in One Piece are one of the more obscure aspects that don't really come up as often and aren't really mentioned outright in most occasions. Some of the codes would include the Code of the Samurai, the Rules of the Kuja Pirates, and the Code of the Swordsman, as well as others. Codes and honor shape the core identity of most characters in the series, as it not only gives them a set of rules to follow, but often allows for them to relate to others as well. But oftentimes in the series, a character's code can be a double-edged sword, serving as both a tool to keep them disciplined, but also a weapon that may harm them when used against them. For example, Zoro allowing Mihawk to strike him head-on in Baratie because wounds on the back are a swordsman's shame. Zoro's willpower in that moment was incredibly high, but instead of retreating, he took an attack that would have killed him and served to hinder him in the future arcs. The rules of the Kuja Pirates causing every empress to catch lovesickness because it's against their rules to have men on the island. It may make the empresses incredibly strong and dominant figures, as in a world of strong men they have to be great without them, but their conformity to that rule causes them to be unable to act on their true desire, and in some cases will even kill them if they stick too hard to the rule. As well as the Code of the Samurai. It is the entire reason why they are so famed and respected, as it contributes not only to their strength but their attitude in battle. This strength, however, just like Zoro, can be a detriment to them when they are outmatched and will not retreat due to their honor or even being unwilling to ask for help even if they're starving. Sanji and Garp's codes out of any in the series are two that are often looked upon as the worst to have, as we only ever see the downsides to them highlighted, and as an audience only have them play great importance in emotionally triggering moments. Sanji's code of respect towards women and his inability to hit them is looked down upon much more than Garp's code due to the fact that it has actively hindered Sanji in key moments that we as an audience believe he should play a bigger role in. Sanji's the left-hand man of Luffy, one of the wings of the Pirate King, so any instance in which he doesn't dominate instantly makes it feel as though he's holding Luffy back or not living up to the portrayal Oda has given him. However, it's a surface level analysis of the character to believe that his code to never hit women is something detrimental to him simply because at times it may hinder him. Sanji's code has always been his greatest strength because his code not only comes from his love for women but his respect for the man who saved his life, as well as the key difference that makes him the greatest out of the Germa siblings, that being his passion and his ability to feel love. Love and passion are common themes brought up with Sanji even beyond just his gag for women, as his love goes much deeper than just physical attraction. His love for Luffy, his crew, and those who brought him out of the pits of despair, as well as his passion towards making Luffy the Pirate King and discovering his dream of the All Blue, are all examples of this. Sanji's power up in Enies Lobby, Diable Jambe, and his boost in Wano being Ifrit Jambe are physical manifestations of his passion and love. The heat of Sanji's passion burns so great that he's able to manifest it as an attack, which is why both the arc where it was introduced and the arc where we see it taken to the next level are arcs where Sanji's code to never hit women come to the forefront the greatest. In Enies Lobby, Sanji's inability to hit women sees him taken out by Khalifa, which as an audience member feels as though it should never happen, as this is a crucial moment in saving Robin, and Sanji is somebody that we need on the battlefield with CP9 agents around. How could he let himself be beaten because of his attraction to Khalifa? How could he let Robin and Luffy down like this? From a visual perspective, Sanji losing to Khalifa because he can't hit women is simply bad optics. It makes him look weaker compared to someone like Zoro or Frankie, who wouldn't have had the same issue. But understanding the character beyond just what is shown on screen lets us know that this is just his own strength being used against him. The same strength that would allow him to demolish Jabra later on in that arc. Sanji and Wano asking Robin to save him because he wasn't able to defeat Black Maria is also another instance. Again, bad optics, but if you're able to look beyond what's being shown and understand that this is Sanji not only placing faith in his crew because he trusts their strength, but also him displaying his inability to stray from his code, you'll then understand why Ifrit Jambe later on is so powerful. Flames are something that can hurt and help the one who wields it. Fire can be taken by the enemy to burn the one who possesses it, but when used correctly, it can set the battlefield ablaze. Sanji's code to never hit women and his willpower in sticking to that code no matter the situation is why he is so powerful as a character and why he's so integral to the Straw Hat Pirates. If Sanji was like Usopp, where he says one thing and then does another because he wavers or tries to adjust to the moment, he wouldn't be one of the wings of the Pirate King. Sanji's willpower is one of the reasons why he's been able to keep pace with Zoro throughout the series despite Zoro training more than he does, because Sanji's passion and willpower are constantly tested more than Zoro's. Where Zoro is tested physically on his path to become the world's greatest swordsman, Sanji is tested mentally numerous times throughout the story. Sanji's great love and passion serve to hinder him in one other arc, that arc being Whole Cake Island. Sanji doesn't face any women in this arc. He doesn't have have a big fight, and he doesn't have any big disgrace like in the other two, but his passion and love being used against him is one of the main points Oda shows us. If Sanji didn't have such a great passion to see Luffy become the Pirate King, he would have never given himself up to the Big Mom Pirates or his family. If his love for his crew wasn't so great, he wouldn't have actively chosen to stay there to protect them. Sanji's spirit being unbreakable is the reason why it's almost broken during Whole Cake, because it wasn't Germa or Big Mom causing him pain, it was himself. Sanji was faced with the same situation that caused him to grow into the person he is today, and because he was unable to control the fire inside him, it was used against him to hurt those close to him and himself. Sanji's code, his passion, and his love are not things that hinder him, but things that make him the left-hand man of the Pirate King. Without the traits that we mock him for, we would never be able to respect him as a character. And his code to never hit women is one of the reasons why he's such a good character in the first place. I mentioned Usopp previously in relation to Sanji, which I think is a good example. Most people don't like Usopp not simply because he's a coward, but because he's a liar. If Sanji was like Usopp, where he makes a big deal about not hitting women, but will resort to hitting women only when he feels it's necessary, he would be a worse character than he is now. But the fact that he's able to be honest with himself and what he believes in no matter the circumstance is why we can respect him as a character. Because he doesn't waver when times get hard, but he sticks to what he believes in. It's the reason we love characters like Zoro and Luffy so much, because they will always be honest to themselves no matter the circumstance. The difference with Sanji, however, is that Oda often puts him in situations where his code and willpower have to be tested, and some of us in the audience, myself included, know that in that situation we would waver and turn on our codes because it feels right. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing that Sanji sticks to his code though. We aren't able to relate to it because most of us know that in that same scenario, we wouldn't have as strong a willpower to stick to it. This is why none of us could accomplish the same things that Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji could, and as a matter of fact, not even bringing it into the real world but keeping it in One Piece, it's why most of the characters who were laughing at Sanji would never be able to accomplish the same things that he does, because their willpower is too weak to stick to what they believe in all the time. Notice how it was the kid pirates laughing at him in Wano, the same kid pirates who gave up their poneglyphs to try and save their captain, basically giving up the one thing that would keep him in the race to become the Pirate King. Sanji would sooner fight and die to protect Luffy's dream than sell it out to save him because he knows that Luffy would rather die than give up. It's the same thing for Sanji himself. He would rather die than give up on the person he is, which is why he rises higher and higher just like Luffy and Zoro do. I could go on a little bit more with Sanji, but however, this video isn't simply a Sanji analysis, but a Sanji and Garp analysis. And if you gleaned anything from the Sanji section, you know what's coming up for Garp. Garp is a character, while not hated on as much as Sanji is for the duration of the series, is hated on much more than him for one specific moment, that moment being Marineford. Everything Garp has been fearing since the day Ace was born and he and Luffy set sail as pirates hit him all at the same time during Marineford and Impel Down. Garp is a figure whose dominating willpower and overwhelming drive is constantly shown throughout the story, as he's the man who fought head to head with the king of the pirates and nearly killed him numerous times. He was the peak that all Navy men aspired to reach, and his actions inspired a generation. But during Marineford, Garp reached his lowest point because his code, his justice, caused him to have to face the one thing he had been running from for over 20 years. Garp's unwillingness to help Ace or Luffy and his internal conflict in Marineford highlights one important thing, and that's the willpower of a conqueror. Garp, being a Conquerors Haki user, possesses a willpower unlike anything typically seen in the One Piece world. Not only that, but being the grandfather of Luffy, a man who has shown his willpower time and time again, and the father of Dragon, a man who has pushed so hard towards his goal that he's become the single biggest adversary to the government in its entire history of ruling, just goes to show how powerful Garp's code of honor really is. He is a man who is considered a demon to pirates. Simply hearing the name Garp struck fear into the hearts of anyone who took to the sea for piracy. I believe that Garp's motto for justice would have been honest justice because it's something that fits his character completely. He's someone that stays true to himself regardless of what the circumstance is, and he will never do something he doesn't feel is right simply because it may be beneficial to him. It's the reason why, despite being a military man, he had the most freedom out of anyone in the Navy and grew to be one of its strongest members. Garp in Marineford had to now face the strength of his own honor and the cost of his justice, and when it came down to it, he was not able to break the man he was because the man he was stronger than the situation that he was facing, even if it was just barely. Garp in Marineford highlights what it's like when someone's will is truly about to be broken, even greater than Sanji in Whole Cake Island, because when Sanji had Luffy to give him hope, Garp had no hope in Marineford. The only thing holding him up was his own strength and determination. Garp not helping Ace or Luffy wasn't because he was thinking about what it would look like to the other Navy men. It wasn't because of him not wanting to make Sengoku look bad, and it wasn't because he cared about his title as the hero of the Navy. Garp not helping Ace or Luffy is the result of him having to be honest with himself and true to his justice. How could a man who is considered a demon to pirates then go on and save two of the most notorious pirates in their generation simply because they were his family? We also see this conflict partially as well in Aokiji's flashback when Garp tells him that Dragon became a revolutionary. Garp's justice forces him to stick to what he's always stuck to. He cannot change the man he is even for his family, because if he did, he wouldn't be the man his family knows him to be. His actions in Marineford, while enraging to the audience, have to be looked at with a wider lens, because him choosing to sit by and let Ace Ace and Luffy face justice, and him trying to stop Luffy and then being hindered due to his memories of them just go to show how hard it was for him to be in that moment. If that was any other pirate on the execution stand, Garp would have been on the ground tearing the battlefield up just like he was in Hachinosu. But while he's a naval hero, he is also a family man. After Ace dies and Akainu goes after Luffy, Garp reaches his lowest point and almost breaks his code completely, but even in that moment he remains true to himself, asking Son Goku to hold him down so he doesn't do something that he's going to regret later. Garp's honest justice caused him to rise to the top in the Navy and inspire everyone because he could never sit still and let evil prosper. His willpower in Marineford is why he was such a monster in his prime, and even now, because no matter what, he will never give up on who he is for whatever the reason, even if that reason may hurt him. Garp shows off the spirit of a conqueror in a powerful way because despite being a soldier, someone who must fall in line to a certain degree, he is still able to dominate because of his code and his justice. Garp's type of justice is actually very similar to Akainu's absolute justice because Garp, no matter the circumstances, will not allow pirates to do well, which is what made him such a terror to them. This honest justice, I believe, is what caused Kobe to push to the next level and strengthen his resolve to stop Luffy from becoming the pirate king. Kobe wants to see Luffy succeed just like Garp does, but he understands that if he had to be honest with himself, he cannot let Luffy win because it would go against his code as a Navy man. Garp's will now being passed on to Kobe shows us why his actions in Marineford were both a sign of his strength and his weakness. His dedication to the Marines and stopping pirates is what caused him to do the things we all hated him for in Marineford. It's not just with Ace and Luffy either, it was even against Roger. Garp and Roger clashed so many times that Roger considered him as someone as close to him as his own crew. They may have seemed like they hated each other, but in actuality, their respect and friendship is something that was going on in the background. Despite this, however, when Roger turned himself in, Garp still had to let his execution take place and stop Shiki from trying to free him because of his dedication and honor as a Marine. I'm sure it hurt Garp to see Roger in a jail cell slated for execution, just like it hurt him to see Ace in that same position. But he cannot waver simply because he doesn't like the circumstances. This is what makes Garp and Akainu a different breed than characters like Aokiji and Kizaru. Kuzan will change his honor for his own vision of a better future, and Kizaru will go against his code as a Navy man to help those close to him. When Garp lost Ace, he didn't quit the Navy, he stepped down to teach the next generation. When Luffy was running up to the execution stand, he still swung to attack him like he would any other pirate, but it was his love for his grandson that caused him to waver. He never went against his code or his justice in either moment, but he had to be honest with himself on both sides. Codes of honor in One Piece, and anime more broadly for that matter, serve to highlight a character's strength but also gives them weaknesses to keep them grounded. A character like Luffy feels so strong because his passion and drive never get used against him. He never has to face conflictions that make him weaker and only ever sees the upside to his unshakable will. Characters like Sanji and Garp, however, have to deal with their own willpower being too strong to break and it being harmful to themselves when faced with a situation where it's used against them. I believe their codes of honor and their willpower are what makes them such powerful figures, and in Sanji's case will be the reason why he gets Conquerors Haki in the future. While Sanji doesn't have any ambition to dominate or conquer an aspect of the world like Luffy and Zoro do, he doesn't need to be a conqueror. Gaban, Rayleigh, Odin, Garp, Whitebeard, none of them had dreams of being the best or greatest at anything. They just had great drive, willpower, and spirit that manifested itself as Conquerors Haki. I think that Garp is a great example on why Sanji will become a conqueror in the future because he shows that being weak in certain moments does not make you a weak person, and the same weaknesses that will nearly break you in one instance will make you unbreakable in another. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. To be honest, I'm not very good at character analysis videos like this because it requires me to look at One Piece more broadly as a story rather than as a world that I look into. But let me know what you think. Does Sanji and Garp's code serve as a weakness or a strength? And does Sanji's code of honor and passion make you believe that he'll get Conquerors Haki in the future? Thank you guys for 500 subscribers. You guys have been a wonderful addition to my life as I now have a community to share my love of One Piece with. I've been having ideas just flow to me constantly ever since I started this channel, and I'm going to be hitting you all with some bangers in the future, so just look out for those. I do have individual videos planned for Sanji and Garp as well, but those probably won't be coming for a while, so you have to stay tuned. I think I'll try and get some more practice doing character analysis because it seems like something you guys actually would like to see, so I'll deliver on that promise for you guys. As always, if you stay to the end, drop a like, subscribe, and stay tuned for high quality One Piece content. Love y'all, and see you in the next video. Peace.